40% of spend at luxury fashion houses comes from 2% of customers, and those customers are referred to as VICs. Very important clients. They're wined and dined, they're given gifts, they're invited to shows, but what does it take to become a VIC? How do you maintain that? And also, what do the people inside the brands actually think of these people? That's what we're going to be delving in today. Guys, if you're new here, my name is Cassie and I'm a self-diagnosed luxury addict. I put out videos on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. So if you like luxury fashion, then you're probably going to love it here. So head down there, subscribe, turn on the bell, become a member of our luxury addicted family. When are we going to rehab? Never. So I was inspired to do this video because The Cut did a really great article kind of focusing on a few prolific VICs in luxury fashion, kind of following along their experiences during Couture Week this last June. And also, I have had a very short-lived experience categorised as a VIC. Not because I actually spend that much, but just because I tend to have fostered quite a good relationship with my essays that I'm going to be going into as well, and kind of sharing my particular experiences. The name of the game, in its most simplified sense, is the more you spend, the more you are rewarded. Much like, if we really simplify this, you know when you go to a local coffee shop and you get a little loyalty card and you get 10 stamps and you get one free. It's a little bit like that, but on an absolutely humongous level. What's interesting, and this is a little like secret, and I don't really hear anybody talking about this, but this is something that I've picked up from when my eyes have been cast over to essays. You know, essays will have like a little work phone. I've had a look at my profile on these work phones, and so when, you know, you're shopping at a brand consistently and they go, oh, you know, do you have a profile with us, or whatever it is, or even if it's your first time you've shopped there and they ask you this, right? That is basically so that they log all of your purchases under you, and each brand has a little sort of tier system. And I'm sure the spend differs by brand as to what category, what puts you up to the next level, and also the naming. So like ambassador level, I don't know, that actually wasn't one of them, but like just as a sort of like idea, so it'll be club member, ambassador, executive, I don't know. They're much more chic names than that, but that is the only way that I can sort of like give you examples, and I've also forgotten what was next to my name. So when they pull up your profile, you've got this little word next to you that categorises you and, you know, how much you spend within that brand. It's a bit like a video game. The more you progress throughout the game and in your spend with a brand, the more experiences and things are offered to you. The more benefits are bestowed to you. What are those benefits? So it might start off with a little in-store local event, come see the new collection, preview, pre-fall with us. You know, there might be some canapes, you know, some champagne, whatever, little cocktail event. It might celebrate a new collaboration or an anniversary with the brand or whatever. You might also be sent small gifts. International Women's Day, here's a bunch of flowers sent to your home. Maybe a box of chocolates for Valentine's Day. These sort of yearly events, seasonal events and holidays, you might get a little sort of branded gift. It won't be a branded product, but you know, it might be a bunch of flowers with a Gucci ribbon and Gucci chocolates, things like that. You may also be invited to events sponsored by the brand or that are sort of exhibitions of the brand. For example, Chanel has their exhibition currently, I think, still going on at the V&A Museum in London. Mum and I were invited. I was under her because I'm not worthy enough to be invited by myself. To experience it, you know, it's a Chanel event, there was a dinner afterwards, all of that business. You might be given a Christmas gift, a little end of year treat. Depending on the brand, these might be products that they have sold, they're from that season, they're from a season before, something like that. Or some brands do manufacture products specifically for this. That sort of curbs the amount that they're able to be resold. But you might be able to look at, I've seen some on like The Real, what goes around comes around. This is a part of their like lawsuit because they've sold gifts from the brand to clients, whatever. They do fly around the pre-loved ether. And then the creme de la creme, as it is deemed, are the show invites, okay? And this isn't just, hello, here's an invitation to the show. This is, we're putting you up in a 5-star hotel during your time in Milan. You are going to be you will have an event every night. We can get you a reservation at whatever restaurant you want. You will have a driver during your whole time. Hair and makeup will be provided for you for the show. You will also get a limited edition gift from the brand. Also, another benefit is the ability to pre-order items that may not even make it into stores. And I'm not even talking about limited edition items. I'm talking about this was on the runway, and only if you went to the show and went to the VIC and put in an order that way. By the way, a VIC is basically, you can re-see everything that's been on the runway. They kind of, you know, they'll show it in a room and everything, and you can get up close and see the pieces and place your order if you want to. But again, that might be your only chance to order a very specific piece that next to nobody in the world will have. These are just some perks. Now, back in the day, my mum was a big Vivienne Westwood shopper, and we used to get a nice little discount. Was it like a little 20% off? This was like 15 years ago-ish. I believe also when we shopped at Kenzo, we got a little, was it like a little 15% off, something like that? I don't think they do the discounts anymore. But that was also a perk. This is also done either by store or on a regional basis, okay? So, for example, let's say show invites. There will be X number of invites given to the UK. All right, and then those will get divvied up by stores. I'm going to use the Fendi example because I was lucky enough to be invited to a couple of Fendi shows, and I'll sort of explain as to why that was able to happen. But Fendi Selfridges is who I used to shop with. I'm not spending VIC money, okay? But because they had X number of invites, let's say they had 3 invites, my SA was just great and advocated for me, basically. But what would happen, let's say, right, top 3 spenders are going to get given this invite. So this is where competition comes in, because it's not going to depend on how much of a spender you are specifically, it's how much of a spender are you to your specific store or in your region, and that level of competition. For example, it's going to be a different level of competition at a flagship store, a Chanel on Madison Avenue, as opposed to Fendi in the Bullring in Birmingham in the UK, sort of thing. Do they have it in the Bull? Yeah, I think so. But there's also like different levels of competition by brand. So in order to be a VIC at somewhere like Chanel, you're spending 6 figures, and you are well into the 6 figures to be considered a VIC at Chanel, to be invited to the shows, that kind of thing. Whereas to be a VIC at a brand like Fendi, that's more of a 5-figure situation. Balmain also would be a brand that maybe, yes, the tens of thousands might qualify you. Now, here's the thing. It's actually a very smart move from these brands, because you might be like, okay, well, I see that they're rewarding people for their spend, and yes, people have spent in order to get these perks, but it kind of ends up being a never-ending cycle because, again, if we take the show invites, for example, you've not only spent to get the invite, but now you have a cocktail event. You've got a sit-down formal dinner. You have the show itself. You want to represent the brand and wear something new season. You maybe want to compete with other VICs who are invited, and you don't want the same piece as somebody else and everything, and, you know, all of the politics that goes into it. So you are therefore spending once again. So in that cut article, they interviewed a sales associate, and he said basically for his VICs that are invited to shows, they end up spending another $60,000 on product around the show, right, for all of the events and the bells and whistles of it all. Going back into that article, one of the VICs that they sort of like followed around during Paris Couture Week is Suzanne Saperstein. She is like an OG VIC, like she's been a VIC for a very long time, to the point that she was able to foster personal friendships with the designers themselves. But she brought up something recently, and again, this kind of goes into that competition side of things. She was quoted saying around like being able to foster a relationship with the designers, they just have so many clients and so many things to do that they don't get involved as much. Obviously, people's motives and, you know, reasons for accepting these invites and whatever vary widely, and for some people it is because it's the love of fashion and it's being able to see the things and pre-order and all of that. For some people it is for the sort of clout and the whining and dining and the being able to say I've done it kind of reason, right? And it's kind of gotten to a stage where it's not even the brands doing this anymore. And yes, previously department stores also do this to a level and they have kind of brand events and things like that. But My Teresa, especially at a time when luxury retail hasn't been doing so well, right? RIP Matches. It's a sad time. But My Teresa is one that has still been growing, has still been performing very well, and that's because they've also started focusing on VICs, offering those VIC perks and kind of honing in on that a bit as their strategy. So for example, having invite-only brands, certain brands that are only available to shop on My Teresa for a certain amount of time for a certain level of clientele, right? Schiaparelli did this recently with My Teresa. Schiaparelli you can really only buy either in stores or on their website only. My Teresa, I believe, was the only place outside of that I think was like for 72 hours you could buy Schiaparelli, and again it was invite only. They also tend to throw different sort of brand events all over the world. Now, it's not all fun and games. As we know, fashion and its perception of being tough and judgmental and not all that welcoming of people, there is obviously going to be a level of politics involved here. And spend can only get you so far. Again, I highly suggest you read the Cut article, it's going to be linked below. But one of the things they kind of go into are the issues that arise when VICs don't behave themselves / present themselves in a way that the brand would want. So one etiquette would be that if you're invited to a Louis Vuitton show, you wear Louis Vuitton. If you don't, you know, have a Louis Vuitton skirt or whatever, it's not going to be a heavily logoed skirt from a brand that's a competitor. Some VICs have done that and they have never been invited again. Some VICs, I did find this quite interesting. A sales associate that was interviewed for the article basically said there was a VIC whose like hair and makeup was too over the top and they didn't sort of like that aesthetic as somebody who was there, you know, invited as a guest of the brand. Also, the topic of like tackiness came up, which is that the people that are VICs tend to be tacky people. This sort of like came up, or pick those like logoed pieces or whatever, and that isn't necessarily the vibe that the brand wants or whatever. So as usual, there's a lot of politics within this and there's layers. Social media behaviour can also get you not invited to another show, taking selfies with celebrities. There is still also a level of separation. I found this really interesting when I went to my first show, which is the seating is sort of separated. Not in terms of there's like a barrier, but all of the clients will sit together, all of the celebrities will sit together, all of the press will sit together, then you'll have like the influencers as well. So there is still a level of sort of separation within these things. And of course, your spend stops, and so do all of the perks. I just thought it would be interesting to go through a little bit of a run through what I learned from the article. It's absolutely fascinating. What do you think? I'm going to leave a link to another video over here in case you haven't already seen it. Have an amazing morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are, and in the words of my father,
if you've enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you haven't, keep your mouth shut.
I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye guys.